My name is Charles Vinson, and I'm the Director for Managed Services in Huawei. Operators today are facing many challenges. The industry is moving at a rapid pace with immense technology changes, increasing competition, and a huge growth of data. The economic downturn and the financial crisis have further compounded the problem. And this has led operators to try to seek as much as they possible to decrease their OPEX. And increasingly, operators are turning to managed services to address these challenges. Let us take a discussion with some of the leading industry analysts to have a better understanding of the current state of managed services and to see how it's going to evolve over the next few years. What new innovations have you seen in managed services lately? And in particular, what is the effect on managed services when it comes to cloud?
Well, I think those are two interesting questions. And probably the most fundamental thing that we're seeing in managed services, and it's a gradual change, is structuring your SLAs around business objectives rather than technical objectives. It's happened so many times in the services field. We see SLAs that are structured around technical objectives where the vendor is actually fulfilling everything. The vendor is doing a very good job against the KPIs and the SLA, but the customer isn't happy. And that's because they're looking at things that don't really affect their business. They've gone and they've asked their technical folks to give them a set of technical KPIs, but their business doesn't change because of that. So while technical KPIs are never going to go away completely, if you look at business objectives, like let's say churn rate or problem resolution times or problem resolution on the first call or something like that, then we're finding that those give the vendor something to work toward that actually does affect the business. The other thing that we're seeing more and more in managed services engagements is this idea of continual improvement over the life of the engagement, where the state when you take over whatever system it is, whether it's a network or whether it's part of your IT, is not where you end up. In other words, it's not just the RMS for less model. It's something where you're continually working throughout the 3, 5, 7 years of the engagement period to improve not only the technology, but the business processes that are supported by it.
Well, we've seen managed services expand into previously untapped markets and untapped service markets for things like UC, telepresence, and video conferencing services, where that model for managed services is being, demand is being created by new user groups and in new global regions increasingly, and we expect that trend to continue in the future.
The big item today has to be customer experience management. It's an area that the word is on everyone's lips. It's on operators' lips. It's on vendors' lips. The operators use the word a lot. They really don't know what to do with it. By contrast, we see that the vendors are developing some very sophisticated tools to be able to manage customer experience, and I think that's the big area where we see a lot of opportunity for vendors and for operators. Really, this is a new area. And to go back to my comment about risk, there's risk associated with not having the right process in place. And managed services can, in this context, customer experience managed services is a great opportunity for both sides to learn a great deal in a low-risk environment.
What are the different types of approaches to outsourcing, and how do operators use this outsourcing to address their challenges in the different regions across the world?
I think you have to distinguish in several dimensions. The first dimension, obviously, is between incumbent operators, those who have been around for a long time in the business, and those who are really new investors, have new investor groups that are entering telecom for the first time. The second dimension you have to look at is existing operations versus new operations. So the new operations, greenfields, as we call them, when an operator is just coming into a country or a market for the first time. And then the final dimension I think you have to look at is really something that has to do with the infrastructure in the country itself. So if we look at that first dimension, incumbent versus new operators much more likely to look at interesting solutions like outsourcing managed services. Greenfields much more likely, even for an operator with experience in other markets, to look at some of these more interesting and advanced business models. And then finally, we think that there's a big skills gap, where there's a gap in many of the emerging markets. We're seeing gaps, unavailability of engineers, and that opens up the opportunities much greater for companies to look at alternative solutions to deal with their skills issues more than anything else.